Good morning, Politics Plus Media 101 listeners, wherever you may be around the world. Today, John Gunnison is out. He is globe-trotting the United Kingdom, so I will be alone and hosting Tingting Liu, foreign affairs, military correspondent, and news anchor for TVBS News. On our podcast, we typically focus on U.S. domestic politics and policy while also keeping an eye always on the important foreign affairs events of our time. There is no more important partner to us in the United States, from my perspective, than Taiwan. So we're going to do a deep dive. Ting, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing this evening over in Taiwan?
Hi, good morning, Justin, and good evening from my side. I'm doing great. Thanks for the introduction. Really more than happy to talk about Taiwan-US relations, and especially right now, at the start of July, we're exactly half a year to the upcoming presidential elections, which we will expect a new president because the current president, President Tsai Ing-wen, her 8-year term is up. So no doubt there'll be a new person in town, and no doubt the heat is coming up.
Yeah, and honestly, Ting, in the U.S., normally, and probably most Western media, you get a focus on war, right? It's always trying to build up the tension and the drama. But before we get into the more specifics of the cross-strait relations, I think we really should discuss domestic politics in Taiwan a little bit. So I went over there a long time ago. It was 2015 now, and it was the DPP and KMT were the two big parties. There was a couple news stories that we've seen here in the West that a new party called the TPP is gaining in popularity. So for us Westerners who maybe don't have a strong pulse on what is going on in Taiwan, can you get into briefly these three parties and maybe what their defining characteristics and differences are?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to, because I think within the past 4 years, the political landscape in Taiwan has changed pretty much. And actually, I would say that this will actually date back to at least since 2014. But the real dividing time, I would say, comes around after 2018. So even though technically, traditionally in Taiwan, it used to be a blue-green, what we call the DPP versus the KMT kind of race, but right now we're actually seeing a race between three parties, which is actually pretty rare for most democracies. You tend to see have like a stronger a traditional party, a newer party, and maybe an independent. But no, right now what we are seeing, Taiwan is a three-party race. So just to give everyone a brief introduction, is that the ruling party right now is called the DPP, what is called the Democratic Progressive Party, or what some people in Taiwan call the Pan Green. So they are actually currently Taiwan is ruled by the DPP by President Tsai Ing-wen, and then the next upcoming their presidential candidate is currently the Vice President of Taiwan, Lai Ching-te, or some call him William Lai. So DPP it's tends to be a bit more hostile to mainland China or PRC, and they are more US friendly, and they see the PRC with more animosity. And in terms of domestic politics, previously traditionally, many of their base actually hopes for Taiwan independence. But right now we are actually seeing a massive shift within a party, especially after Tsai Ing-wen came to power, because technically she is actually not a very traditional DPP candidate. And obviously with international pressures, and we know that actually US also do not support Taiwan's independence in that sense. So there tend to be a bit more shift in their policies. So the current stand of the ruling party is that they believe that the Republic of China, Taiwan, which is where I am in right now, is already independent. We have our own government, we have our own currency, we have our own constitution, so there isn't a need to really fight for Taiwan independence in that sense. And over the past 4 years, I would say that they have done a pretty good job in making the name Taiwan known around the world.
You mentioned there's been a shift in the DPP. What has, and it sounds like maybe a shift towards more moderate language around the cross-strait issues. What has caused that shift? Is it young people coming of age to vote? Is it pressures from the US and international partners? Help us understand.
I would say that the reason behind that comes from many many partners in play. One is obviously from international politics, because we know that US actually do not support Taiwan's independence in that sense. And also, in a way, also to gain grounds within the more moderate people in Taiwan, we have seen that the President Tsai, especially with the past 2-3 years, even in her National Day speech, she will actually mention Republic of China, Taiwan. I know this is a very foreign concept to many foreigners. People identify as Taiwan, or some people see as Republic of China. But technically, the constitution of the country that I'm standing on right now goes by the Republic of China. And my president is the Republic of China's president. I know it's a very complicated concept. People are like, oh, isn't that mean Taiwan? But the idea of Taiwan to maybe some hard, I would say the hardliners within PRC, they will actually think that, by mentioning Taiwan, you are actually trying to seek independence in that sense, like Taiwan isn't a country kind of thing.
And China says that it has once again conveyed message of One China principle, as well as the 3 China-U.S. joint communiques. And while meeting with President Xi, Blinken also said that the U.S. does not support the so-called Taiwan independence. What's your take on that?
The KMT never believes in the concept of Taiwan independence. Unfortunately, not everyone believes in us. Apparently in Taiwan, there are people who are trying to promote these very dangerous ideas through Blinken. You kind of let people know that this is not going to happen, because the United States simply just won't endorse this kind of movement.
So you just went through the DPP and the moderation, where they're more pro-status quo, which is in a way a form of pro-independence, because you already have independence, essentially. Everything but in name only. So what is the KMT? When I was there, they were, I think, very pro-China back in 2015. Is that still the case? Do they want to reintegrate? Has there been any evolution recently in the party?
I would say that to say that KMT is pro-China is a fair statement, but to say that if they are pro-CCP, then that's a different story. We are dealing with Asians, Asians, or rather Chinese here. When I say Chinese in general, it doesn't mean like PRC Chinese, but as a race in general. Chinese people like myself, we will come up with many different terms, many gray area terms to make things more complicated in that sense, unfortunately, because it has to do with the Chinese language at the same time, but at the same time, it has to do with what they believe is important to be in black and white on paper. And it is keeping up the proper face is very important, in Chinese culture. So I would say that KMT, right now, to also appeal to more moderate voters in Taiwan. And I would say the most population within KMT, when you say they are pro-China, I think they are pro-peace, I would say. They would actually hope to have more dialogue with China. As for whether it's a peaceful unification, there are still much divide within the party. But they no doubt push for more dialogue across the straits. And obviously, some Westerners will actually see that it means that they are pro-CCP, pro-PRC, and they actually do send delegations over to mainland China to speak with the leaders or representatives from the CCP, but to say that, it means that they are trying to hope to peacefully reunify, I think there's still quite a wide difference, in that stance. And I would say that the KMT these days, the younger supporters of KMT, they still hold tightly to the idea that they believe in the idea of Republic of China, and they believe, and traditionally KMT believes that mainland China should reunify under ROC. So it is, and some of them actually view that PRC or the CCP is the illegitimate government of the People's Republic of China, or the illegitimate government of China in that sense. But I think given that the difference in power, status, economic status across the straits. The idea of reunifying under the name ROC, it's much more difficult right now. And obviously, there are also some people within the party believe that, no matter how the idea of Republic of China still stands, Republic of China represents democratic China. So I believe that in the United States, there are still many Asian Americans who has roots, be it in China or be it in Taiwan. They still believe in the ROC idea. So they believe that the Republic of China is the legitimate government of the Chinese government, of the Chinese people. So if you compare between DPP and the KMT, comparatively, yes, the KMT is friendlier towards the people in China, towards the government in China.
When it comes to the relationship between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan, many people point to the 1992 consensus. It showed a sincerity of both sides seeking a common future. So why is the 1992 consensus so important in the process of China's reunification? The 1992 consensus is a verbal agreement between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan. It came after months of negotiations between the Association for Relations Across the Taiwan Straits and Straits Exchange Foundation, the two non-governmental organizations authorized by the mainland and Taiwan. There are 2 points in the agreement. Number 1, both sides across the Taiwan Strait belong to one China. Number 2, both the mainland and Taiwan should work together toward national reunification.
Now we have to go into the complicated idea of the 92 consensus, and 92 consensus is also one of those great terms. Since we talk about the idea of Chinese Taipei, Republic of China, Taiwan, 92 consensus is also one of the most debatable items we are talking right now in Taiwan. As to and for China right now, they keep bringing up the 92 consensus. So what is 92 consensus? 92 consensus basically is the idea of everything reunifies under one China, but this China, it's to be determined by each party. In Chinese, they call it 九二共识一种各表. So in Chinese, it means 92 consensus, one China, each to its own. It's a very grand concept that was actually came up in the 1990s. To allow both sides of the China to speak. PRC China, ROC China. It has its historical background and its legitimacy that it exists to allow both sides to coexist peacefully back then and talk and conduct business activities, conduct political activities. But right now, we are looking at 30 years on, when we talk about one China to its own, one China to its own description in that sense, be it the CCP government, the PRC government is very clear in their stance that one China only means one People Republic of China. There is no one Republic of China. So they keep saying that, everything needs to go under one China. We need to talk under the one China concept. And obviously this is totally struck down by the DPP. They will say that, no, we are both a country, be it ROC Taiwan, be it ROC, be it Taiwan. We cannot talk under one People's Republic of China. And as for KMT right now, obviously there's still a group of people who believes in the 92 consensus. And one of the most famous people who actually championed it is the president before Tsai Ing-wen, President Ma Ying-jeou. So that is why some people tend to see him as pro-China or pro-PRC. But I would say that's not the case. He still believes that in peaceful dialogues between both sides. But this bring back to what we talked about earlier, is that mainland China, CCP China, PRC China has been very strong in their stance, and that caused the fact that 92 consensus is not very popular among the younger population or the more moderate population in Taiwan, because they feel that there is no way for both sides to talk if the basis or the foundation to talk has to be under one People's Republic of China.
We started out our conversation with saying there's basically a new political party that's now one of the major three potentially, and we'll find out, I assume, in this election, January 2024. And then the parties are trying to appeal to the more moderate wing of the electorate, which is very foreign for us right now in the United States because our politics is infected with this extremism where both parties, specifically the Republican side of the aisle, but in ways both parties are messaging to the more extreme wings to try and gain support, gain energy, turn out voters. So that brings me to the TPP. Are they the more moderate party, and is that why they're gaining support?
I would say that they appeal to a group of voters in Taiwan who are very sick of pan green and pan blue politics. Like just imagine if you put that in American context, is that people are just so sick and tired of Republican and Democrats every day fighting each other. And this new party pop out of nowhere, tend to be a bit more moderate, tend to be more practical in that sense. And people just, and obviously that has to come with the fact that the TPP leader is quite charismatic. The TPP leader is Ko Wen-je. He used to be the Taipei mayor. So he is the mayor for 8 years. Some people say that he's a good mayor. Some people don't think he is. But he is actually the capital city of Taiwan's mayor. So people actually did see that he at least had some sort of job done during his past 8 years when he was in politics. And the fact that he's actually quite charismatic, he is someone who actually is very straightforward in what he wants to say. If he missay something and he will just apologize. People tend to see a very different politician as compared to what we call a traditional politician in that sense.
He's more authentic, it sounds like.
Yeah, he is. And TPP stands for Taiwan's People's Party. But I would say that his political stance in terms of cross-strait relations tends to be in the middle. So in the sense that he is not exactly pro-US, but he is not exactly pro-China. He believes that both sides need to talk. He also believes that US and Taiwan relations is important. And as for his stance towards China, he thinks that, as mentioned earlier, both sides need to talk, but the fact that the Taiwan's people's rights cannot be discounted, so that obviously appealed to a lot of people. And as for his stance to the 92 consensus, he doesn't have a very clear stance about that, but he acknowledged that it did exist, and he also called out to the Chinese government that they need to factor in Taiwan's people's thoughts about the 92 consensus, the fact that it is getting a bit too, I would say, old or too historical to put into today's context. So he believes that having a peaceful relations is important. But as to the Chinese intrusions and all the incursions and all the military threats that's happening around Taiwan, he believes that the Taiwanese should not fear war, but they should prepare for war, but they should not at the same time try to start a war. And he also point fingers at the ruling party, the DPP, that whatever they are doing right now is trying to ignite war between the cross-straits. And it is quite interesting because Ko Wen-je, he actually made a trip to the States in April, and he went for around 3 weeks, and he spoke to many people. He went to CSIS to speak. He went to various think tanks to meet people. And I would say that trip for him to the States, he learned a lot, and he has also been trying to at least change his policies, and also trying to make his policies appeal more to the people in US, I would say. But at the same time, he still holds the Taiwanese benefits quite centric to his beliefs. So I would say he's somewhere in the middle. But currently, in terms of polls in Taiwan, there are many various polls that's happening right now. Generally, most people will think that the DPP candidate, William Lai, is leading, followed by TPP. And the last is actually KMT's OUE, which is a bit strange, I would say.
Now, the way that you're describing the TPP and how you describe DPP and KMT for us, just intuitively, it would stand to reason, with the cross straits being such an important issue, that the TPP is taking more support from the KMT. Is that what than they're taking support from the DPP? Is that what analysts and what you think is happening?
I think he takes a bit from both sides, I would say. I mean, obviously, then his own foundation base, he is trying to take supporters from both sides, and not forgetting that Ko actually has more support among the younger population, and that's quite a fact in that sense. I would say that the fact that even though Pan Blue technically is the largest opposition party in Taiwan, but the reason why they are actually currently falling back behind the polls has a lot to do with KMT internal politics. The fact that why KMT is falling back behind polls these days has a lot to do with KMT internal politics. So currently we are around half a year towards elections, but the candidate the KMT have pushed out is still currently the new Taipei City mayor. So that's basically not Taipei City, but another city in Taiwan called New Taipei City. So he hasn't quit his role yet. So the fact that he hasn't quit his role, he cannot put his full 100% effort into running for presidency. And the fact that his election team has, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of political infighting that's happening right now. And he actually changed a lot of election team heads. So that sort of drag KMT's. I would say that the fact that people actually think that they are the largest opposition party right now, it is not very reflective on this upcoming election. Whereas if you look across to the two other parties, the DPP, they are very good at what they do during elections. They have their people already all in place. Everybody knows what they need to do. As for Kerwin, just the same thing. Even though there's still a couple of mess within his team, but he's already running around Taiwan, going on his campaign trail and everything. So comparatively, KMT candidate is lagging behind in terms of exposure. People are just looking at the party saying that, oh, you're not prepared for this elections that's coming up in less than 6 months. So people tend to be a bit hesitant about voting for him. But it's still too early to say in Taiwan election, even though it's still half a year away. The real hit comes in around 2 to 3 months before elections, because it is until then you can see that the traditional supporters of the Pan Blue and Pan Green will go back to support their traditional political party. It is then you actually really see how things will turn out. So I would say that it's not exactly an end game yet for the KMT, but no doubt they have a lot of things to catch up on.
You're saying could be an artificial high right now for the TPP because we're just so far out, like in the United States. I think what you're describing with the KMT is very similar to criticism Governor Ron DeSantis received in Florida, right? So yeah. We're a year and a half out, Ting, from our elections, and it's probably pretty analogous to 6 months out in Taiwan because our elections have gotten way out of control, where we focus on these things so far out in advance that Ron DeSantis was getting criticism for not only not jumping into the election earlier, a couple months earlier, but also there was, some infighting in his team. And infighting tends to characterize the U.S. politics among the advisors, and there's always switch-ups during the presidential campaign. Joe Biden had one. President Trump had like 20, especially on the 2016 camp. So you're just describing this half a world away on the other side of the world, and it sounds exactly like what we experience in the United States.
History always repeats itself, right? So, that is the beauty, open quote, unquote, of democracy, as they say that. It is unfortunate that technically when political parties need to be already going on full speed ahead, but right now they are still caught up by infighting. And but hopefully the KMT will hope their infighting will end by the end of July, because their massive party, I think it's one of their party days coming up somewhere. I think it was July 23rd or something. It is the day where everyone will unite, because even though he has passed the primaries, it is that exact day that he will actually be like basically all the political candidates will stand together to unite everyone in unison kind of thing, So currently right now they are still trying to sort out through the last bits of infighting, hoping that they will reunite in time. But I would say that one thing to gauge whether TPP is doing well or not, is from if you see how the DPP has actually adjusted their tactics. And also when the three candidates actually sort of confirmed their candidacy by May. Actually, the first to confirm was DPP. So the VP was actually the first in race. So everyone was confirmed. As I mentioned, DPP is a group of people who know elections very well. So they have all their times already sort of planned. And VP Lai Ching-te has actually went one round around Taiwan. He has completed his first round. Currently, he is on his second part of this campaign show, going on his second round. And between May and June, you can see that the DPP actually put all their guns and cannons directed towards KMT, holding daily press conferences to attack the KMT candidate Ho Yo-yi. But right now, they have sort of adjusted their campaign tactic and put all their guns out towards Ko Wen-je. And Ko is believed to actually be a bit more tougher candidate to fight on, because his policies and the base that he attracts a bit more is actually the moderate pan-green supporters. So that is the reason right now we are seeing why the DPP is attacking the TPP quite a bit straight. But obviously this will also sort of put DPP in quite a stressful position, because it means that they will have to keep adjusting their election tactics. Right now they are slowly adjusting back to sort of direct it at KMT, but not forgetting to also attack the TPP candidate. So I mean we would not expect like which candidate will be able to cross the 50% mark in January 2024. But right now, I think we are looking at who will actually get the most, maybe around 38% to 39% of the vote, and that will be actually the next president of Taiwan.
To follow up here, we started off by saying that typically the elections are really defined by the cross-state relations. I remember when I was over in Taiwan, we had these meetings with the health minister, for example, the Ministry of Defense, and we discussed domestic and international cross-strait relations was obviously the focus of our trip there. But one of the domestic issues that was of real importance was the national health system.
Yes.
How to pay for it, right? And as U.S. policymakers, we were very interested in this because it was as Obamacare was getting implemented. And, Republicans on the trip would be like, look, Taiwan's concerned about paying for their nationalized healthcare plan. We're not going to be able to do it in the United States. And then Democrats would say, no, look at Taiwan's healthcare system. It's first world. It's the best there is. This is amazing. This is what we need in the United States. But that is all to say, I'm wondering if you could walk through, is that still an issue? And what other major domestic policy issues are defining the DPP, TPP, KMT, and their party platforms?
I would say that no doubt this kind of domestic politics is actually the bedrock of Taiwan's politics, because people will still talk about like whether the national healthcare system will be able to sustain. And not forgetting, we are actually finally, hopefully, Taiwan will not have a president that is trained by law for the first time in years. Because if you look at DPP's Lai Ching-te, he is actually he has a medical degree. And as for TP Ko Wen-je, he used to be an ER doctor, so he is also trained in medicine. And as for KMT's Ho Yo-yi, he is a police by training. So for once we are not, there's a joke that said that, finally there's not a lawyer going to lead Taiwan. We are looking at 2 doctors versus 1 police. But I would say that currently the domestic politics part is actually not yet much discussed in the race right now, because Taiwan has actually is still going through a Me Too movement. I'm not sure whether you've heard that in the States.
No, please. I think I've seen some headlines, but no, this is foreign to me, literally and figuratively. So please explain what's going on.
The Me Too political movement in Taiwan started on the 1st of June. So what happened was that it was a DPP party worker. She was a former worker who worked on one of the DPP political video projects. She actually wrote a very long post on Facebook accusing one of the political video directors which the DPP hired has actually sexually molested her on a moving vehicle between their video shoots. And the problem with that was that she actually went to the gender equality section department within the DPP, saying that she has been sexually harassed and hope that they could do something about it. The problem is that the head of that department told her, say that, why didn't you leave immediately? And, if you are so stressed about it, you should actually go out to the field out there and scream and release out your tension. So basically, and say that, if you are going to submit a formal request and inclusion through this thing, it will actually not be in your benefit. I might not be able to help you. And the problem is with that is that the gender equality head section, the head, she actually eventually, after the election in Taiwan last year, she was actually promoted within the party.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so she actually went on to become the DPP's Deputy Secretary General. So that is a bit so I mean it was really very painful for the girl, that she has to go through all this pain, but she decided to write on Facebook, and obviously a lot of people actually came forward to support her. But this came with an issue is that the DPP that already shows that there's a lot of issues within the DPP, and the fact that when this first happened, all the media actually went to ask the DPP leader, which is currently the running candidate for DPP, Lai Ching-te himself. He wasn't, and at the first moment, he didn't respond to press requests. So obviously there is a very bad impression on him, and people also went to the former leader, which is the president of Taiwan, Tsai Ing-wen. She wasn't also, at the first moment, she also wasn't very open and didn't say anything. It was only until a day later, on the afternoon, when they actually came in, and then they were like, say that, okay, we will definitely look into this, we will actually do something about it. And then, but by then, because the first Me Too person stepped forward, so a lot of this story started coming out. But this is not to say that the Me Too movement,
other women started to step forward with
other
stories.
women start to step forward.
Were they primarily within the party, or was this like in the United States where you had it throughout all sectors of society?
It went throughout all sectors of society. So obviously, on day one, there's a lot of finger pointing towards DPP. Say, within your party, there are so many dirty things happening.
You guys are a dirty political party. Yes. It's all you. You guys are bad.
Yeah, but the thing is that sexually harassment doesn't only happen within one party. It went on. So 2 days later, within the KMT, there's also a lot of people who step forward and say, this person did this to me, that person did this to me, and then it went on to the media circle, even like within especially within the political journalism section, there are also like city councillors stepping forward to say that, this media personality has also sexually harassed me. There are also these journalists who step forward to say that, this other media personality has also sexually harassed me. And there are also journalists staying forward to say that, this politician has did this to me, kind of thing. So it went everywhere. But it went towards the Penguin side. It also attacked the Penblue side. But interestingly, the reason that why Ko Wen-je, the TPP head, garnered a lot of support is that nothing actually happened to his party. So there was actually a similar case that happened within his party, but he was actually very straightforward about it, and he actually fired the person, the sexually harassed the perpetrator, basically. And also helped the sexually harassed to seek psychological attention. And also comparatively to the two big parties, the TPP, people felt that, oh, okay, so you guys are actually comparatively very transparent, also very responsive. Maybe not necessarily pro-female or anything, but at least you did help your party workers to do right. So that is why Cohen's support rate skyrocketed during the past months. But right now I would say that the Me Too movement has actually scattered towards the media circle in Taiwan.
It sounds very similar because in the United States, it hit everywhere. It started with Hollywood, as we know.
Yeah.
It started years before the actual movement. There were stories about Harvey Weinstein being this pervert that was, sexually assaulting and worse these women. And then from the Hollywood sector, it broke into the news media. And then from the news media, it broke into politics. And the responses, were varied, right? The Republican Party basically tried to sweep it under the rug. The Democrats took a very strong stance, and some even quibble with how strong of a stance they took. They kicked a senator out of a party for quote unquote making a joke. But that is to say, years later, which you don't have the benefit of viewing just yet, it has fundamentally changed how workplace interactions are, right? Now the victim is taken for their word, and for the most part, they're taken more seriously. The workplace is more formal, which is a good thing in a lot of ways. And there were a lot of positive results from the Me Too movement in Taiwan. Has society always just swept this stuff under the rug? Has this been something that has been long simmering? And now that it's being brought to the forefront, is most of society supportive of these women and the movement itself?
I would say that the issue with Taiwan as compared to Western societies is that Taiwan is actually quite the patriarchal society in that sense. So this Me Too movement actually came at a time that it basically, I would say that it's an earthquake that happened across the Taiwanese society. So it came at the right time. Even though it started from politics, but it sort of made the victims be more willing to step forward. And there are actually many people, especially within the celebrity circle, who actually step forward. And I would say that it is not only on sexually harassed or molestation case, but there are also alleged rapes cases where people are stepping forward, and the police and prosecutors are obviously looking into it. Right now in Taiwan, there's a massive cancellation movement. So far also some of these perverts and these perpetrators, especially the really serious ones, they are actually quite cancelled by the people in Taiwan. Yeah. And I would not say that it's only a male-female thing. But even within the gay circles, people are also stepping out, say that, oh, this guy did this to me, kind of thing, So, I would say it's quite a massive movement, across everywhere. I mean, there was a small little break for the holiday that happened between the Dragon Boat Festival. But after the Dragon Boat Festival, another celebrity was actually, reported that he actually sexually harassed younger actress, so that sort of snowballed again, so right now, everybody is like, maybe tonight there may be another long Facebook
you're
post.
all waiting for the next shoe to drop, because we're still a patriarchal society, and the result has been more equality, and through cancellation, like you're saying, there's only so much legislation you can do, right? It has to be a social norm shift, and that canceling of people who are really bad adds consequences.
Yeah, I think what's quite happening, there's quite one good thing that's happening in Taiwan, is that the legislators are actually looking at putting in stronger laws in place to ensure that such alleged case could be looked into quite immediately. And the various parties, especially within the DPP, they have also added their own SOPs, in terms of reports of any allegations of being harassed within a party. So obviously all the parties are trying, to to the public that they actually treat such allegations with more with they are trying to show everybody that they are very serious about it, but no doubt I would say that both Pen Green and Pen Blue has taken quite a huge blow. But as to whether how long this Me Too movement will really affect to the end of the year, I don't think so, because I think within politics right now, unless there's really somebody big or popular out there that is actually reported that they have been harassing somebody, otherwise I would think that that's it. But one good thing that is also quite good that's happening in Taiwan is that it is not only within celebrity circle or political circle, is that even within the government, I would say within the various ministries, let's say the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there are also some cases that also pulled out a couple of ambassadors in Taiwan, so those are also quite dealt with quite seriously. So I think that's a good thing.
It's a great thing. And it's just another reason why a democracy is so important, right? Because people are being held accountable, especially in government. So Tingting, we are 6 months away from the election. We've discussed the different parties. We've discussed foreign affairs, cross-strait relations, and also domestic issues. What should we be looking out for as we actually get closer to January 2024 and the election date?
As in, no doubt, currently, there's still a lot. I think this year's election is a bit unusual because technically a presidential election in Taiwan is quite focused on international policies, and the fact that it's quite focused on the president's military and foreign affairs policies, because technically in Taiwan is a very different system from US, is because that in Taiwan it is the premier's, or what you call the prime minister's job, to look at domestic policies, and people will actually choose their president based quite a large part on whether you agree with their military and foreign affairs politics. No, but right now we are still seeing a lot of domestic issues or domestic affairs being discussed. But I think with the next 6 months, I think everybody is looking at what kind of clear military and foreign affairs policies that these three candidates can bring to the table. We are actually seeing some of them being very open with what they have to say, but some of them still a bit hesitant and still trying to steer ways. So I think one very clear thing is that until right now, even though we did see that the DPP, the ruling party's candidate William Lai, Lia Xingde, even though that he has actually brought up president's ties policy, but one thing is to look is that whether he has his own style to it. What is his own reassessment, or what is his future plan? And obviously for KMT, you have the heavy puzzle of this pro-China kind of ideology that people think that he is, but he is obviously trying to appeal to the more moderate voters. As for TPB, is that it's also for him, even though it's a new party, how many votes could he actually try to gather from his more moderate policy? So that's one thing that's still yet to be seen. And obviously the debate that three of them, they are going to probably be held in November and December. They'll be one of the most deciding factor for the three candidates in Taiwan. So there's still quite a long way to go.